Hi there. For this lovely video, we have the lovely Sarah Salvatore with us, and we're going to ask her some questions about STEM. So, Sarah, what motivates you in science?
Well, for me, I'd say it might be a little bit different from most people because I've had the fortunate experience of being able to grow up my entire life surrounded by science. Both my parents are researchers at LSU Shreveport, and they have always given me the opportunity to do what I love in science, and they've really motivated me to know why science is so important. And the reason why I believe is because science it's the real deal. It doesn't get any more uh, precise or accurate than science because that is basically the meaning of everything. It's science, and being able to go look at a problem and wonder why, how, what, and being able to use the tools that you have and to figure out that problem and to learn more about it, I think it's really amazing. So I don't have future career plans solidified yet, but I think actually that I will not be going into science, believe it or not, even though I've been surrounded by it my whole life. I think I'm more interested in like a political or law aspect for my career. But I am still going to pursue a science undergrad because I know, personally, I'm interested in environmental science, and I know that if I have a scientific or engineering basis, and for my undergrad degree, my bachelor's or master's degree, I will be able to really know what I'm talking about when I'm in a professional, more like paperworky, um, like in maybe the government area or just people that don't quite really know what they're talking about. But if you know the science, you know what you're talking about, and they can't prove you wrong because they can't prove facts wrong.
Okay. All right, what do you think the best ways to fund a STEM project are?
So, like I said earlier, I was fortunate enough to grow up with two parents that were able to give me labs. So, I think that's really nice. But even though I've had really cool projects to work with from my parents, I'm always thinking of other projects that I would love to do if I had time. And the way I do that is I just pay attention to the world. You know, I look at problems, especially with environmental science. There's so much that you could test. And I can give you a few examples that I would love to do if I had the time or energy, because I need to sleep sometimes. Um, but one example is I was watching this news report on 60 Minutes about shellfish or something. I don't know, this was a few years ago. And they were talking about how I think it was oysters have the ability to clean the water so they can take out the toxins and the dirt or whatever, and I guess ingest it, and they purify the water. And so I thought, even though that might be not super useful in practicality, it would be a pretty cool thing to study. You could get like a tank of dirty water, put some oysters or other shellfish in it, and just see what happens. And there's just so much you can do with that. You can go so far, and it's limitless. It has no bounds. And another project that came to me just a month ago, when Ms. Lawrence was talking about how they're introducing engineering into the STEM honors project, was how, okay, so I was in Boston, and I went to the Boston Museum of Science, which is like Scyport but 1,000 times cooler, and they had a exhibit on renewable energy, and part of the exhibit was on windmills. And I kind of know about windmills. I just know them as the things with spikes that go round and round. But from the exhibit, I saw that there are so many different types of windmills. They're shaped different sizes for different purposes. Some may be like way out in the ocean, some may be on higher ground, lower ground, so they're shaped differently. And I thought maybe if I had time, I could use the 3D printer to maybe model those windmills and the different designs, because I know there are at least 3 different like solid designs that look completely different from one another. And using those, I could put them in different settings and make my own little wind model, get a little fan or just blow on it to indicate low wind. And I thought that could have been really cool. So the point is, it's the little things that really jump out at you. If you pay attention, something will come.
Okay. What kind of project did you do before you did one that qualified you to compete in Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, which is JSHS, or Louisiana State Science and Engineering Fair, which is LSEF?
So I've done science fair every year since 3rd grade. It's just, it's November comes around, that was just the time. And it's been a wide variety of projects. My first project was on plants, and of course, and using herbicides and spraying the herbicide on the plant and seeing seeing how long it would take the herbicide to travel and actually work on the plant. So I sprayed it, and after maybe an hour I cut off the part that I sprayed, and then maybe 3 hours later I cut off another part, and just to model it like that. And that can be, there's a lot of options with that. And then I've done a bunch of other projects. One time I tested things that could be used to melt ice, so salts and I don't even know what else. That was a really long time ago. And I think my favorite project that I did was I got this as a little kit. I didn't come up with this, but I made little solar cells. They're called Grotzel cells when they're not used with silicon. They use dyes. So I use dye from hibiscus tea, from chlorophyll, from I forgot that one, but just color dyes. Oh, from blackberries. And I kind of spread this dye solution thing on top of the cell. I hardened it on there by putting it on a hot plate, and it made a nice little solar cell, and it was able to create energy with the flow of electrons, and it was really cool. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to State Science Fair with that one, even though I feel like it could have gone pretty far if the circumstances had been right. But there were some pretty nice, simple projects. And my freshman year, I did a project on protein denaturation in various acidity levels, so pH levels from 1 to 13. And it was a pretty good project. I went to JSHS with it, but because I was in the biochemistry category competing with all of the cancer projects, heart disease projects, I didn't get to go to state, but it's okay.
Okay. So you obviously have done a project that got you into JSHS, and you've done several that have gotten you into state science fair as well. What advice do you have for presenting your project?
So presenting a project is probably one of the most important things about actually doing a science fair project. Yes, the research is important, but you can get farther presenting a bad project well than you can by presenting a good project badly. My main advice is know what you're talking about. Sometimes kids will just kind of get a project, do it, know what they're doing, but not exactly know what it means. And, it's more complicated as the projects get more complicated. For example, when I was in 4th grade, I did a project on density, and I, honest to God, did not understand density. I don't know what year concept that was, but by the time I got to 6th grade, I understood it. But I BS'd my way through science fair a little bit on that year, but I did get to regionals. But I don't recommend that because it was stressful, it was not good, that's not model. Know what you're talking about, be confident about what you're talking about, and the only way you can be confident about it is if you know what it is. Speak loudly. I know when I am hearing projects, other people present their projects, sometimes, they can be saying really important things, but they're not emphasizing. If you look at Sanjay and his projects, he is a model presenter because everything he says has such emphasis on the important parts. He doesn't speak like this, he speaks And that's important. That is, it engages the audience, it makes you seem more interested in what you're doing, and it makes you seem more interesting.
Okay. All right. Tell us a little bit about your JSHS and LSEF experiences.
Okay, so freshman year, I was in Mr. Stevens' class, and he invited a few of us after class and was like, there's this thing called JSHS, Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, and I think you guys might be interested. And I literally had no idea what it was. I think I knew it was related to science fair, but I never knew what the purpose was. So I was like, okay, cool, science, I guess that's my thing, and free trip, free food, that's pretty cool, get to go to Baton Rouge. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And then I went down. It was honestly best experience, by far best field trip, JSHS, but in regards to total experiences, JSHS is top 5 for me, because I get there, and not only is it fun hanging out with all your friends, being, on a bus with really cool sponsors like Miss Clements and Mr. Stevens. You get to mess with Mr. Stevens a little bit too, which is always fun. But the best part is that it really immerses you in the world of science. You can see all these other people your age or a few years older that are doing actual research, that are so smart and so motivated, and it really, nothing else motivates you that much. When I was a freshman, I saw this one girl from Baton Rouge who did this environmental project that was huge, ginormous scale. An environmental project, you wouldn't think that would be too complicated, right? It was crazy. It had to do with coastal wetlands and plants and stuff. I don't understand how a high school student, honor student, who already has a bunch of responsibilities, has the time to do all that amazing stuff. But now, this year, I found myself in that same position where I have to balance science fair with all my other responsibilities, and yes, it's a challenge, but it makes me feel accomplished. It makes me feel like I've reached that level that I was aiming for freshman year, and I wouldn't even know that level existed if I hadn't gone to JSHS. And science fair is the same deal. You get to see a larger variety of projects, and there isn't as much opportunity at science fair to actually see the projects, because at JSHS, you go and you watch others present oral presentations and the board presentations, and you get a chance to see what a real lecture actually is. At science fair, you have the boards, and while it's still amazing, JSHS is just a great experience, and I can't wait to go back again. But being able to go present your own ideas, and there's something special about it. It makes you feel like you are accomplished, like you're on a good track for your future. Even if you don't go into science, you're applying yourself in so many more ways than learning. You're practicing speaking skills, you are practicing interactions with other people, and you're learning so much more about the world just from everything that you do when you go down, and it's great.
Okay, thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, and good luck to you.
Thank you.